is to take your carnal vessel from you, to take your identity, and to pretend to be you while you're suffering in hell. And they just got a get out of hell free card. Don't let them take your get out of hell pass because you listen to their lies and their manipulation. I'm here to tell you that hell is not a heavy metal concert. Or else those demonic entities would still be in hell having a time of their life. The reason why a lot of them are trying to escape hell is because it's unpleasant, and they know it's unpleasant. And instead of redeeming themselves and allowing a higher power to guide them through that hellish experience, they try to escape and come here on planet Earth. Some of them will lie to you, flat out lie to you, manipulate you, and mislead you to believe that hell is on Earth. And that is a goddamn lie. The suffering that we experience on this earth is nothing compared to hell. I'm here to tell you that hell is not on Earth. But if you continue to turn this planetary paradise into a shithole, you'll know exactly what hell feels like, so that you'll appreciate this planet more. So, religious people, this is my final and last warning to you. More specifically, Christians and people who use their religious beliefs to terrorize people. This is also to Muslims too. Although the majority of them are Christians that are abusing their power, it's Muslims as well. Islam, the Nation of Islam, and Muslims. Please, for the love of all that is holy, stop. Please stop using your belief systems, your holy books, to intimidate, silence, enslave, false imprison, sexually exploit, and violate people's free will and their boundaries. If you are dealing with someone who is difficult and who disagrees with your belief system, leave them alone, please. If they want to participate in church, whether it's church or a mosque, please allow them to enjoy the service, because you never know, they may convert. But please don't pressure that person into converting. Please don't force them to eat food that is not within their respective dietary choices. Please stop infiltrating homeless shelters and community resource centers to enforce your propaganda and religious propaganda and agenda onto people that are unsuspecting and vulnerable. Please. Please. If your foundation is a religious resource center, please make that clear on the sign. Please do not allow people to walk in and they find out later that is religious based. Please be clear about that at the door, so that when people go on your website and they see, oh, this is a religious foundation, let people make a choice as to whether or not they want to receive your services. Please don't manipulate people into being a member of your resource center and its religious base, and they're finding that out later. Please stop confiscating people's identification and using it for fraud, selling their information, giving their information to people who are stalking them and preying on them. Please stop accepting bribes from predators that you know are looking for vulnerable people. If someone is giving you their ID and their information, their date of birth, their social security number, please do not sell their information. And please do not give their information to someone that they are trying to get away from. So if they're suffering from domestic violence and you know that they're a victim, please do not accept any bribes from their abuser by giving the location of the victim. Please don't do that. Please. If you continue to do things such as that, you will be legally recognized as an accomplice. You will also be recognized for aiding and abetting in criminal activity, and you could possibly be charged with obstruction of justice, interfering with an ongoing investigation, and you can also be charged with being a co-conspirator. Once you get those charges, you're in too deep. You will receive the same penalty and consequences as the ringleader. Your punishment will be the exact same as the abuser. You will not be let off the hook. You are not going to get it easy. The police are not going to take it light on you. They're going to legally deem you as guilty, just as guilty as the abuser. If you continue to aid and abet an abusive activity, you will be legally recognized as a co-conspirator, and you will receive the same consequences as the ringleaders who premeditated the crime. If you continue to ignore divine guidance, if you continue to ignore your intuition, if you refuse to do the right thing, if you continue to engage in bullying behavior, you are going to be recognized as guilty just as much as the people who are leading and orchestrating the harassment. If your organization is hiring, make it clear as to whether or not you are employing believers only or not. Make that clear, because you do have your rights. As a religious organization, if you don't want to hire someone, you do have a right to refuse services to people. You don't have to open your door to everybody. You don't have to at all. So I want to remind you, that if someone is looking for a job, and you are hiring and they don't share the same religious beliefs and you don't want to hire them, refuse their services. But violating their rights, gang stalking them, forcing them to depend on you, taking away their natural resources or access to natural resources is unconstitutional. If you know someone is looking for a job and they do not practice the same belief systems that you have a right to refuse to hire them. But what is illegal is when you gang stalk them and you prevent them from getting a job somewhere else because they don't agree with your religious beliefs. Okay? That's unconstitutional. That's illegal. You could face a lot of charges for that. Okay? There's a difference between denying a non-believer because you just don't want that negative confrontation. You don't want to argue with somebody. You don't want to have to explain yourself to someone that just doesn't agree with you. That's your choice. You do have your rights. That's your First Amendment right. But what is illegal and what violates someone else's constitutional rights is if you racially profile them, if you spread false information about them to get them fired from a job, if you commit forgery and bank fraud in order to deplete them of all financial access, if you ruin their reputation to where they can't get accepted into school, or they can't get a job, or they can't receive any community support, that's illegal. That's considered slander. That's considered character assassination, and that is illegal. And depending on the severity of the crime, it could be bumped up from a misdemeanor to a felony. You could also lose your license to practice religious law. You could lose your license. So if you're a deacon or a pastor or a preacher or a priest, if you use these unconstitutional practices, you could lose your license. If you lose your license, that means you will no longer be allowed to hold a high status or a government paid employment via the church. And you will be ineligible for hire for religious employment. You will no longer be allowed to receive any type of governmental benefits. You will no longer be allowed to ask for donations because they will be marked as spam and scam services. And you face possible eviction from your church. And the church can either be led by someone else or completely renovated, depending on how many people, how many members that you have gotten involved in the gang stalking and the sexual harassment and the human trafficking. If you violate somebody's free will, if you take away their constitutional rights for a prolonged period of time to where they're financially destitute and they're being forced to depend on you for help when they didn't want your help or ask for it, it is considered human trafficking. It is considered labor trafficking. And if you molest a church member for a long extended period of time and they become terminally ill to where they have to, their finances have been depleted because they've had to get medical attention, that's considered sex trafficking. That is considered prostitution. And that is a felony. And depending on the severity of the situation, you could receive the death penalty for that. If you molest a church member and you don't go get help, you can lose your licenses and get locked up for human trafficking. And in some severe cases of human trafficking, you could receive a death sentence. You could receive a death sentence for refusing to redeem yourself after these acts. Some of you have been given an opportunity to redeem yourself of these behaviors. You know that you did it. You know you molested someone that was underage, that was a church member. You know that you molested a child that was not a church member. You know that you have vilified people unfairly and you've taken away their constitutional rights because they refuse to be members of your